stuck, slow-moving, or on target? What does your school's attainment look like? Can this DFES army of colourful stickmen really help when it comes to personalising progress? Tracking down underperforming pupils and getting results before it's too late is a passion of the DFES's Chief Advisor for School Standards, Sue Hackman.
I think these children just don't get it. They don't get the point of school. They feel that education is something that's done to them.
Her stickmen charts break down groups of pupils who, one way or another, are not reaching national expectations. She hopes they'll be useful for schools. But do they tell you anything new? We've challenged 2 schools to give the stickmen a critical road test.
It's all very well, looks very pretty, but is it actually any use?
What I do, I actually look at the individual. But you know here, Tim, we try to move everybody on.
From Addington High School, head teacher Tim Davis and head of Year 11, Kelly Beard. From Ellen Wilkinson Primary are head teacher Sue Ferguson and deputy head Poppy Goldsmith. All 4 have come to the DFES to find out more from Sue Hackman about the model they're going to trial.
Well, thanks for coming. I hope what we're going to show you today is going to be really interesting and possibly useful to you in school. And really, the theme of this is how are your kids progressing? This is Key Stage 3, first of all, and these are the results for English last year. Here we have 100 figurines. Each one of them is 1%. These pupils here in blue were the 65% of pupils who reached national expectations. That was the year in which we started our activity in Key Stage 3, trying to raise standards. And this is where we are today. We've added to this score these pupils here in dark blue, bringing us up to 74% who are at national expectations. The question for us, of course, is what do we know about these pupils who came in below national expectations? And in particular, what do we know about these ones here who are going to help us to make our target here, which is at 85%? Well, this is what we know. First of all, what we don't know, there are 4% here who were absent from the test. Those are counted as underperforming pupils, even though in reality some of them might not be. Next, there are 15% of children who achieve level 4, so they're just 1 level below national expectations. Of these, 1% have regressed to level 4. And worse, we have a further 6% who are stuck at level 4. They left primary school at national expectations and then sat for 3 years in secondary and didn't add a single level. Behind these pupils, there are a further 7% who reach level 4 and they're slow moving through level 4. They only add 1 level in the key stage. I think 1 level in 3 years isn't good enough. So why are these children making slow progress? There are 1% of children here who are below national expectations but have made amazing progress. I don't know, but I'm guessing this is English as an additional language. I think we've got bright children acquiring English, motoring up the system. You'd be a bit more depressed if you knew that they stick there. Beyond these children, we have 2% at level 3. They got all the catch-up programmes throughout primary school. They've been ALS, they've been FLS, they've been summer school, they've been LPU, they've been springboarded. They're in perpetual catch-up. I think these children need someone with them who understands learning to the core, who takes no nonsense, knows how to get a learner, support them and bring them on, because these children have actually given up on themselves. The other children at level 2 are below, and as you might guess, many of them have statements of special educational needs, or possibly School Action Plus. One of the interesting things for me about these under-attainers is they all want and need a different solution. These need a great teacher in the class. These need some English as an additional language support. These need mentors. And these slow-moving ones, I'm not sure, but I'm just guessing that sitting in lower sets, they might just need a teaching plan that's capable of delivering 2 levels of progress. I think they need our highest expectations, our most rapid progress plans.
So how do Addington's results look given the stickmen treatment? These are the 2005 Key Stage 3 English data.
Well, you've started in 2000 from a very low base at 28%. But the dark blue figures here, this rate of progress, who could ask for more than this? That is just fantastic. What was the gist of how you did that?
It was a school that I took over as head in 2001, and my judgment would have put it into special measures. We were in serious weaknesses after Ofsted in 2002, and it was to do with really having a complete restructuring of the fundamentals, the curriculum, the teaching and learning, the leadership, the ethos.
Whatever it is, it's obviously been very successful.
If Tim's school is already improving successfully, is the stickmen approach any use to him?
What Sue's saying is schools have done well, but we can look at groups of pupils and we can look at varied strategies that can take things up further. And behind all that, it's not just, I sense, an attention to national targets or school targets. I think it is a passion there about what it means for individual pupils and the whole purpose of it all.
Addington High School sits on the edge of a large estate in Croydon. Despite low levels of prior attainment and high levels of mobility, the school has improved significantly using their own targeting strategies for underperforming students. Kelly Beard is responsible for the school's data tracking.
I mean, it's an extension of what I was doing beforehand, but it's such a much better way of presenting the data. I think what we were doing beforehand, when we were looking at the sub-levels for each child, we did concentrate on all the different levels from 3 to 5, and doing it this way really focuses on those stuck at level 4s, the ones that I think we can really make the difference with. I've had a go at doing the stickmen myself with the computer program that Sue Hatman provided, and I've got the English data for the year 10s, but I've also done it for the current year 9s, based on their attainment levels that were given at the end of year 8.
Head of English Yvonne Connolly has been able to identify exactly which pupils are stuck in her year 9 English class.
Do these words have anything in common? And secondly, what type of text do you think they've been taken from? I want you to have a look at those words together in your group. There are about 7 students in that class who I would consider are stuck at the moment and aren't progressing on to the next level. I actually grouped them so they were mixed ability, so that they were in different tables and they were able to work with students who actually can perform quite well in most skills areas. And I don't think those groups would remain the same for every lesson, because we want to look at, every time they do an activity, who did it well, who needs extra help on it, and you have to look at them as individuals. What kind of text do you think these words could have come from?
We think it came from a horror text, because most of the words here are actually negative.
In terms of the categories, we've certainly looked at stuck pupils, and we've looked at pupils who are making fast progress. I think what we maybe need to think about are the pupils that are slow moving. As a school, we've said moving 1 level is the minimum expectation, so there hasn't really been a drive or a focus onto those pupils. So it's maybe something we can have more dialogue about.
Back to the stickmen. What picture do they paint for Ellen Wilkinson Primary School and their 2005 Key Stage 2 English data?
I've represented it on your primary diagram as the number of pupils. I didn't want to scale it up to 100 because I seriously thought you might like to go away and write the names on. Yeah. And I'd be interested to know if you could write the names on. This is tremendous then. You've got 37 of all the kids, 54 in school at the moment. And 37 of them reach national expectations, so well done, that is terrific. But you've got 11% that achieved level 3, and you'll see that in common with national averages, you haven't got any stuck either, but you did have one who'd fallen behind from being well ahead of the class. Do you know who it was?
Not off the top of my head,
okay,
no.
Well, so I think that might be worth investigating. I was going to say,
I probably could for this the cohort 2006.
For the cohort you're in,
but yeah.
That's good. Because that's the game, isn't it? Because I've got it easy. Because I've got the figures retrospectively, and I was able to go and talk to the kids to whom it had happened. But the thing for the teacher is you need to see them before it happens to them and do something about it. 10% slow moving, I'd say, is probably your big challenge for your school, isn't it? On the other hand, they are at level 3, and they are slow moving, they're not stuck. So I'd say it's about how can you accelerate and have a slightly more ambitious pace for those particular children. And here you are, non-absent, well done. And here you are, again, very typical of national rates. You've got 6 children here who are at level 2 or below, and I'm hoping that you know who they are and that you know, you'll have a theory about why they didn't make it. The more interesting business will be why this orange and these yellow characters didn't make it to national expectations.
Ellen Wilkinson is a 2-form entry school in Newham, East London, with high levels of EAL pupils and a large SEN register. So what do they make of the stickmen approach?
I thought that was a really useful meeting. How did you feel when they put our name up on the screen with our data for 2005?
Got to be honest, my heart stopped, but I think it actually portrays where the school is really well, and also the journey we still need to take.
Definitely. I must admit I got distracted by thinking who was that child that was slow moving.
I know, especially as we've just been talking about this year's cohort.
Yeah, I think it'd be useful to go back and have a look and then perhaps maybe try and do the same sort of thing with the 2006.
When we came back from the presentation, we had a couple of priorities. Number one was we wanted to actually go back to the 2005 data and actually identify that child. I was so miffed in that meeting that I couldn't name that child off the top of my head. And going back, I wanted to make sure that we had tried everything we possibly could to actually address that child's needs. Obviously, the next step was then to look at our 2006 data and see if this pattern was replicated. Thankfully, it wasn't. There is a very glowing picture. What I love about this is
there's no colour.
There's no colour, there is no stuck, there is no falling behind, and there are no slow movers.
But there are some children missing.
There are some children missing because we've got, what, 39 on here.
So that's 6 missing.
There are 6 missing because they have got missing
so we've
data.
got 1 missing that was a 4, a missing and got the 5, but she was actually quite exceptional.
Yeah.
Look at the names of the other ones. Most of those came in quite late into that key stage.
Yeah.
Majority of those came in year 5. And so it just shows that if they had a longer run, they would have probably got it. And the fact that they were coming out with 3s
shows that they've made that progress. This is all very well, but these children are gone. We can't fix this.
No.
We need to look at actually addressing that something in the middle.
Yeah.
Now, I think it needs to be mid-key stage.
Okay.
So you're looking at the end of year 4. I would suggest probably start year 5.
Yeah.
You've still got 18 months, 2 years to do something about it.
Absolutely.
You've got 2 years worth of assessment data from key stage 1 to where they are currently. Yeah. So, but I think the colours are useful.
Okay, how about if we did something kind of like if we had a table and we block the colours in, so we've got
the stuck falling behind.
So if we have that, that's pink.
Yeah.
Maybe as 1 sub-level, have moved 2 sub-levels, 3 and 4 plus. I think there needs to be a separate box for those children. We've got no key stage 1 data.
Yeah, because that was the problem on this.
And their rate of progress from entry into us.
I agree.
The walk for today, we are learning to edit our work. We're going to be going through our work and edit it. What does edit mean?
Checking our spellings.
Checking spellings, fantastic.
We have very high aspirations here. We expect every year group to have at least 70% of their pupils at our internal levels. For example, we expect children to go into year 6 at a 4C, and that's replicated all the way down the school.
You've just written down nouns, you've written down the things you saw. But can you tell us a little bit more? I find with the slow movers is that they can write decent English sentences, but they don't add enough details to really set higher expectations, because the children will rise to that if we drive it.
Teacher expectation is key to this. It's actually about us making sure that we're expecting enough of every child in this school. We're in an inclusive borough, so we've got children with SEN, we've got a large number of children who've got English as an additional language. But we need to meet every single one of those needs and make sure that we're not using it as an excuse for underachieving.
Do you make individual provision for children? Do you do catch-up classes? Do you have one-to-one revision at all?
We have a variety of things, you know, revision programmes, catch-up programmes. I mean, I look particularly at the stuck pupils at all levels, 3, 4, 5, and we have mentoring programmes. We do set targets in terms of numbers, like you are a 3C at the moment, we hope to get you a 4A, but within classrooms there is specific level breakdown in pupil speak.
Okay, thanks for meeting with me. Today we're going to be talking about your targets and data and your learning.
As part of Addington's push to raise standards across all ability levels, Head of Year 9, Tanya Goody, meets with students to discuss their aspirational targets.
Now the red, if you have a red square on your current grades or your now grades, that means that you haven't reached your forecast grade yet. If you've got yellow, that means you've reached it and you've got to your forecast and now you're aiming to get to your aspirational. If you've got green, it means you're well on the way to reaching that aspirational and you've passed your forecast grade. Okay, so obviously I'm hoping all of you are going to want what colour? Green. Green.
All pupils in the year really appreciate their aspirational targets. It's helped to develop a culture and an ethos of learning and achievement in the year group. And a child might say, you know, I really want to become a lawyer or I want to do journalism, and the tutor will break that down and help them to understand how what they're doing now is one step along that journey.
Our real need is to make sure that all the staff of the school are expert in how pupils learn best, looking at how we customise learning to individuals and groups of pupils.
The purpose of our meeting today is to look at Darren's progress.
Learning mentor Crystal Keary meets regularly with pupils who have been identified as not meeting their potential, especially those who are somewhat stuck in the middle.
The mentoring process in the school is something that I've been responsible for in the last 2 years, and my idea behind it was we do spend a lot of time working with the gifted and talented pupils. There's a lot of support put in for SEN pupils and EAL pupils, but there's that kind of middle ground of pupils who get stuck and maybe all they need is just that little bit of encouragement and a little bit of attention.
Now, number 13, this is to show increasing independence and initiative. That means that when you get your homework at home, do you sit down and do you straight away get on with it, or is it, I need a bit of help with this, I'm not sure about that. Mum, what do you think?
Puts it off till the next day.
It was very important that we got the parents on board, and I think parents want to know how well their children are doing, and they want them to know that they are being pushed in the right direction, that they are getting targets set, and that they're doing everything we can in school to support them and achieve those targets.
Why do you think, rather, you're holding off on completing your work in some subjects?
Because I find it complicated with the English homework.
So if you were to think about your average evening at home, how could you restructure your evening so that you get all of your work done?
To try to do my homework a little earlier, because then...
Right.
When we went and spoke to the children who were stuck in Key Stage 3, they told us most of them had targets. What they really liked in targets, though, were targets that were very specific and doable. And what they hated were these big wafty ones that they couldn't quite get their heads round. I was interested in what you were saying about having high expectations, because that's a challenge, isn't it? And we did a little exercise of our own with school targets to see if you set very high expectations, does it actually influence your results? And it does. Yeah. Schools that are willing to countenance high expectations and set high targets do produce better results. Even if they don't reach the target, they produce better results.
This is our colour system. Okay, we tried to keep the colours exactly the same so it links in.
At Ellen Wilkinson, Sue and Poppy have adapted the stickmen approach, tracking individual pupils' progress in terms of their sub-levels.
It's all very well, but is it actually any use?
Yes, I think it is, because now I can target the children who really need to move on. I mean, I can then plan activities that would be specifically geared towards making sure that they move, especially the kids who are stuck. I mean, it's surprising. In my assessments, I didn't really identify it quite this clearly. So this would be good to inform my future planning.
I spotted a couple of children who are level 4 and they've only moved one sub-level. So I wouldn't have considered them as having a problem because they're already so high up in terms of the rest of the class. So it establishes that they probably climbed really high early on in the stage and now they're slowing down again. So it's quite interesting to see that they need helping along again.
It's those ones there that you'd be wanting to push into those level 5s, and because they're, you know, near a 4 or at a 4 already, you're thinking it's okay, but it's actually saying, well, actually, you know, let's look at you and let's say, right, okay, you've not been pushed far enough. I want to actually push you further to hit that level 5 at the end of the key stage.
Yeah.
You know, we're sitting in our literacy groups at the moment, and I've realised that I would like Roz to work with a particular group, okay? One of the strategies I've tried was changing the positioning of where the children sit. With the slow movers, I've now moved them more to the centre of the room so they can be in my direct line of vision, so I can keep focusing on them.
It isn't about doing anything radically different. It's just maybe working in a slightly different way. For instance, a TA, if we just move them to the slow-moving group once a week, 20 minutes could make a big difference to those children. 20 minutes less for those SEN children would actually probably help them too, make them more independent.
Okay, folks, Standards and Stickman and Addington High School. We've had a little bit of a chance to look at this. What we've been able to do now, of course, is to take the 2006 cohort and map that out.
I think it's a good representation to be able to share with your team, because you're often working with spreadsheets, aren't you? And you have a tendency to look at your own classes or to look at particular groups. And I think it's quite important for all staff to see where the cohort is. I still personally do like to look as a subject leader in a lot of detail at the sub-levels because I find that very useful.
I can see it having a use, but I feel I like to look at the individual, because obviously I've had a problem with my pupils at Key Stage 4. And whilst I see what is here, it does tend to marry up with what I've got around me and collecting at the moment.
I'm a bit concerned really when I look at this, because what I do, I actually look at the individual as opposed to sort of blocks of people. The main difference of drive here is looking at those level 4s. If this is the drive, then I know I can perhaps put more resources into that particular cohort of people, those level 4s. But all the time we're driving at every level. The 5A's getting the 6s, the 6A's getting the 7s, the 7A's getting the 8s. And the N's getting their 3s, you know.
Even the lower attainers in the year group, though, like to have an aspirational target, and for them that might only be one sub-level higher than a whole level. So it might be 4 sub-levels, but that for that child who came in at maybe below level 3 or level 3. So it is about personalising that target for each child.
Particularly with those students who would be considered to be slow moving, it's very important for them to feel they're making progress and not to be just labelled, you're level 4, you're level 4, you're level 4. They've got to know, actually, I've made some real progress there and I've moved up, you know, 1 sub-level, I've moved up 2 sub-levels.
Can I just check something out there? If somebody comes in at from Key Stage 2 at 4A, and at Key Stage 3 they get 6C, in our terms, that's 4 sub-levels. What I would say is that's not enough for that student.
What you're really saying is actually we have to be a little bit wary of these blue stick men, because whilst they're looking good on there, you're saying actually that's not good enough, because plenty of those blue stick men there are actually underachieving.
So 3 weeks later, with some mixed reviews, both schools head back to Sue Hackman with their feedback.
Were there any surprises thrown up by it?
The couple where it was the children who were above average that had only moved 1 sub-level, that really flagged up, and I think that was the biggest surprise to us. The thing is, because they're in year 5 and it's still right at the sort of early stage of year 5, you've got enough time now to really make a difference and to impact on it, you know.
What was also helpful is we've sort of cross-referenced it against our behaviour tracking systems.
Oh, tell all. Was there a correlation?
Yes, there is, funnily enough. Funnily enough, children who have got very poor punctuality and attendance are slow-moving. And I know doesn't sound rocket science, but it's actually that extra bit of leverage to actually say, look, your child is slow, you know, is slowing down their progress. And one of the aspects is the fact that, you know, they don't come in until about 15-20 minutes after the lesson starts.
I think that's a very productive line of thought and very well worthwhile in the long run. And now I'm beginning to wonder how it's been in the secondary school.
Well, we found it interesting, Sue. We've gone back and used the spreadsheet to look at the data that we're carrying within the school. But interestingly, we've also had a go at the current year 9, and that's provided us with some very valuable information at this stage in this academic year.
So this is our current year 9. So at the moment there's obviously the 27% are stuck at level 4, 11% are slow moving. But it's now looking at those specific groups of pupils and what intervention we can put in place for those specific groups of pupils.
And you've still got time to do something about them before you expect them to.
But what we felt was we needed to put names to the particular people. So I actually looked at particular groups of pupils, groups of levels. So I started to look at the blue men, but then within that I've used the same kind of colour coding that you used to track at level 5. So looking at the pupils who are stuck at level 5 and who are slow moving at level 5, who have made fast progress. But what about those pupils who came in at a level 5 and who maybe are still stuck at level 5? And unfortunately there are, you know, a few of those. I guess the ones that we're, you know, really interested in terms of raising those, you know, national statistics are this group of pupils. And what we need to put in place in terms of intervention for these. I'm fascinated that you're looking at stuckness in different levels, because when you focus on targets, or even at GCSE on level C, I suppose it's very natural for us to worry about the pupils who are on that borderline. But of course there are children who might be making poor progress who actually have rather good results. That's where raising standards comes from. Yeah. I think you're raising the bar. I think that's putting challenge into the system.
I think in particular it's allowing us to test the strength of our data tracking systems and to make them even more coherent. It is looking at big structures within the school, and it's providing us with the opportunity to look in detail at particular groups of pupils or particular individuals, where they are in the school and also where they are in the subject areas.
The bottom line is, numbers don't change anything. Graphs don't change anything. It's only when you bring it down to the individual pupil and look at their needs that's when the difference happens. And you have to turn that into action. You can analyse data a million different ways, but if you're not actually putting any action behind it and you're not actually checking to see that it's had the impact you hoped, what's the point?
If you'd like to test out the Stickman model, you can get the spreadsheet via this programme's webpage on www.teachers.tv.